You're kicking cancer's butt, Jim. So all of you are probably, you know Jim well. You might have been roasting him at his birthday, but now we get to hear the story from him. Let's welcome to the stage the one and only Jim Bowman.
All right, well, remain standing. I want you to remain standing. Everybody stand up. Okay, stand up. Nikki, Matt, they're good-looking people, but come on. I only pick good-looking people so that I don't overshine, okay? But thanks so much, Matt, for your story. I want everybody in this room that's standing to remain standing if they or someone they love has cancer or has had cancer. Okay, we're all standing. It's pervasive, no doubt. Okay, sit down or remain standing if you are that person. Okay? So remain standing if you've had cancer. Okay? There's a lot of us here. There's a lot of us here. Look at the table over there in the corner of, they were telling me their stories. They're all survivors. So, and I'm here for all of us that are survivors. No, please remain standing. Bruce will stand throughout the whole presentation. So, early on, and back in the back of the room, is a dear friend, Heidi, who came early to me with a message, which was, Jim, you can beat this. There's plenty of room at the survivors table. So every table here has a survivor. And thank you, Heidi and Rick, for passing that message to me. That's my first slide. So if I can figure out how to get this to work. What do we think, boss? Hey! I was going to call this a bunch of different things. I decided that the right title for this talk is There's Plenty of Room at the Survivors Table. Okay? I was going to call it Male Breast Cancer, A Man's Journey, or Breast Cancer. I thought you said Best Dancer. So I had to pick something, so I went with There's Plenty of Room at the Survivors Table. So there's two gentlemen in the back I'd like to stand. Men that are survivors of breast cancer. Stand up back there, you two. Okay. I want to tell you that's I know 4 guys in town that are survivors. 2 of them have donated money and not able to be here. And Ralph is the one in the front there. He's a great supporter of Albie Aware. And Ralph had like 200 lymph nodes removed and does not have lymphedema. That is absolutely not fair, Ralph. I only had 15 removed. I got like a terrible case of it, but there's a good physical therapist here. And then the other guy is Rich, who's a bridge buddy. And when he heard I had breast cancer in the middle of a room with like 50 people, he lifts his shirt up and says, "Hey, me too." So it was a great moment. It made me realize that people want to share. And people want to help. So thanks, guys. It's not just girls. Okay? So I got a little video I want to show you if we can pull this off, boss.
That was more than one clap. Leave it to my childhood buddies. Here's a little tidbit about me. I was diagnosed with bilateral breast cancer, and I ended up getting a double mastectomy. And before I had a double mastectomy, I was already pretty flat-chested. And I made so many jokes over the years about how small my chest was that I started to think that maybe my boobs overheard me. And we're just like, you know what? We're sick of this. Let's kill her. Hey, whose side are you on?
Okay. Okay, look, I spent hours on the internet trying to find something funny about breast cancer, and I found that, and I thought it was beautiful. So I wanted you all to see it. Before I get into my story, which you heard a lot about, and I won't repeat things, I want to thank all of you that are here, and specifically thank the people who put a lot of resources into getting this done. We are raising a significant amount of money for a very worthy local charity. So, presenting sponsors. We thought when we sat down, geez, if we could find one presenting sponsor, we're going to do great. Okay, we ended up with 4. Okay, so, and it's thanks mostly to Doug Carcione, Joe Carcione, the green grocer. We all know the green grocer, right? So Joe's a friend of Doug's from way back. He's presenting sponsor. My dear friend over there, Carl Calnero's firm, Porter Scott. They're presenting sponsors, and they're presenting for a very special reason. They lost one of their partners, Nancy Sheehan, to breast cancer just the last couple of months. And they had her memorial here last Saturday. An amazing person, and you can look her story up on the internet. And then a family that I've known since before I was born, Mike Lean and Dorothy Lean and their family. I can't tell you how much it means to have such loving and dear friends. I promised myself I wasn't going to cry. So, and most importantly, people want to be associated with me. It is a big deal in Sacramento to know Jim Bowman, okay? So I'm here to tell you, somebody donated $10,000 not to have their name given when I thanked them, okay? So we had an anonymous presenting sponsor. How does that work out? So... Okay, and then the platinum sponsors. There's just one, and I received a call on a Sunday morning from one of our bridge buddies. There's a lot of ladies and gentlemen here that play bridge, and that has become my new home. And I got a call on a Sunday from Pat Angolia from Hawaii, and she goes, Jim, I just got your invitation. Is it too late to be a sponsor? And I said, you do know how this charity thing works, right? We're good. We'll find room for you. Pat donated $7,500 and isn't able to be here. And I said, Pat, it brought tears to my eyes. I'm sitting at home. And I said, Pat, I can't believe it. And she goes, Jim, us old ladies really appreciate you doing what you do for breast cancer. And I said, well, it really hasn't been my pleasure, but I guess here we go. So, gold sponsors, there's a lot of them, but Doug's brother, Frank Carson over here, Carson Landscape. The Bowman family stepped up, my wife and kids. There's no dearer friends than Teacher Sue and Kirk and Dave and Ingrid Karakovs off of Capital Builders Hardware. Carol's crazy cousins, along with River City Petroleum. I'm telling you, I married into the best family ever. Carol has these cousins, the Freers are their name, and there's 4 of them, and they're all kind of our age, and they are so much fun, and we love them. And I just kind of mentioned it to Greg, and he says, oh, we'll be there. And Greg organized and put together gold sponsorship from Carol's cousins. So, and River City Petroleum, who their representative here is dating the son of a guy that I've done a lot of things with that you don't want to talk about in a room like this. So, I mean, he walks up to me and Greg puts me on the spot right here. He goes, Jim, do you know who this is? And I said, no, I don't, but I'm old and I've forgotten a lot of things. And he explains to me who he is, and I'm going, oh man, I can't believe he's here, and please don't tell everybody what you might know about me. So, Carol, that's David Brooks' son over there. Oh, yeah. So, that's it. He's sworn to secrecy. Let's see, who else have we got? Okay, once again, I had somebody very dear to me wants to be recognized because they know me, another anonymous gold sponsor. And then very special, actually, sitting here at Del Paso. And I've spent a lot of time here in my days and on committees and stuff. And there was a gentleman that I sat on the finance committee with for years who we lost a while ago. And I've become friends with his wife through Bridge. And she said, "Oh, Jim, I can come and I'll send a check, Well, she sent a gold sponsor check in honor of Hank and her. And so I want to thank Nancy and Hank Fisher. So we're lucky to live in Sacramento. A quick story. I had an opportunity to go to New York and this big shot job and everything in 1986. And Carol and I made the decision to come home. Her folks are in Roseville. I live in Sacramento. By far the best decision we ever made. Didn't make all the big New York bucks, but that's okay. We live in a community so full of love and friends and in rooms like this that you cannot find in New York City. Okay, and then there's silver sponsors, and I can't believe all the people that stepped up for this thing. Chris and Annie Jacobs, thank you. If I have a breast cancer hero, it is Ann Jacobs. For 15 years, she's been battling stage 4 cancer, and she's still tougher than anybody in the room. Chris told me the other day that they've been together longer with her with cancer than without cancer. So, and also Chris is a great advocate. I call him whenever I need medical advice, not because he knows anything, but because he's a lawyer and he thinks he knows everything. So it's great. Thanks, Chris, for all the advice. I don't think leg amputation really cures breast cancer. Okay. So we have a great institution in this community, Safe Credit Union. Where are you, Safe Credit Union? Raise your hand. Okay, thank you. Represented by Dave and Karen Roten. Karen is a good friend of Carol's and the group that she hangs out with when she wants to get in trouble on the golf course. Somebody I've known forever, Dennis Dalton. So Denny Jack Benny donated as a silver sponsor. He offered to be a gold sponsor but wanted to speak, and I said, no, silver is fine. Okay. Everybody's happy about that. Okay. And Dennis introduced me early on to Don Turner, Sacramento, another silver sponsor and a great friend. And I know Don's sitting here thinking about our friend Jack Stockman and wishes he was in this room with us too. The WHA, the health, where are you, WHA? Come on. They didn't show? No, they're here. There you are. Okay, good. They are my health care provider. And Tammy, where's Tammy and Tammy Wilcox? There's Tammy. And Kevin Wilcox live across the street. They were one of the first people I approached. Tammy dragged me out to football games in the rain when I was bald and wasn't supposed to go outside, but she wanted to make sure I was moving. You can't believe how many people will, if they know about your situation and you open up, will help you. And Tammy and Kevin are certainly two of those. Another bridge buddy, Mary Ossie is not here, but the Ossie family, huge in Sacramento. Another silver sponsor. And last but certainly not least, a great institution in Sacramento, Golden One Credit Union. So, and Golden One does so much for this community, along with SAFE. Great institutions, and we're very lucky to have these kind of institutions. Okay, that's all the sponsors I'm going to thank here. There's a list of them around that you will see, people that donated $1,000, $1,500, wine, beer, whatever it was, okay, and made this event happen. There's one other sponsor I want to thank, a man of incredible courage who could take a situation that could puts you in anger and not want to engage or do anything. And that's Doug Carson. So Doug is Albie's husband. Doug took a situation that most of us just couldn't stand. Matt sugarcoated it a little bit, I think. And boy, he channeled it to an amazing, amazing thing. So Doug, thank you for this opportunity. And also, there's another group associated with Albie Aware called the Pink Ladies. So there's a lot of pink ladies around. Survivors and supporters, they do great. Okay, so back to the logo. I want to tell you two quick stories. Quick. Cousin Roger, one of the crazy cousins. One of the first people I saw after I was diagnosed was Cousin Roger, okay? And we're working in my garage, just kind of chatting, and I'm saying, God, I got breast cancer. I don't know what to talk. I don't want to talk to girls about their breast. I'm not comfortable doing that. I like looking at them, but I don't want to talk about them. And Raj says, oh, man, you know, one of my daughter's father has breast cancer. And I go, oh, great. Can you give me his phone number? And he said, nah, he died. Oh, shit. And then he goes, no, he had a heart attack. And I said, oh, thank God. I was concerned that bad things were going to happen, but it was okay. He had a heart attack. And then I was at lunch during this time, and there was it was with Bob Coons, an ex-manager here. He wanted to take me out to lunch as he was leaving, and he knew what was going on. And we had a conversation, and he says, Jim, kind of tell me what you learned. And I said, well, it's interesting. I learned by reading and just experiencing this that there's two things, okay? You should never look at somebody who's in dire straits and say, oh, what can I do? You should say, oh, damn it, how about I do this, okay? Take the pressure off them. Don't make them a decision, okay? And the other thing is, oh, Jim, I heard your story. Oh, it's too bad, but God, my dog has colon cancer, believe it or not, and tell you a 10-minute story about something you really don't want to hear about when you're in this situation. So Bob and I were sitting in Skip's Burgers, which is a great place, and Skip walks up, who was like, his wife was my kid's 6th grade teacher, and Skip sits down and I'm bald, and it's obvious what I'm going through, and he knew, and he says, oh, Jim, God, I'm so glad you're here getting a burger. My sister-in-law, and he goes into like a 3-minute story about her whatever cancer she had. I really didn't care at that moment, and I looked over at Bob and kind of raised my eyebrows, and he started laughing, and Skip stopped mid-sentence, and he goes, you really don't want to hear about this, do you? I said, no, Skip, I'm in a tough spot right now. I don't need to hear another horror. So you have to bring it inside, and it's very difficult. So here we go to the next slide. Where do I point this thing, boss? There we go. Okay, there's two things you don't see on the same sentence very often. Dear Abby and shaved cats. These two things that everything I'm telling you absolutely is true. So one day I go, okay, my father-in-law lives across the courtyard from where I live. He's 89 years old, and he cooks breakfast. He cooks breakfast every morning. It's either Jimmy Dean pure pork sausage, or it's a couple slices of bacon. Sausage, bacon, every other day. Sausage, bacon, sausage, and then bacon, okay? So I go over to have sausage with him. I like Jimmy Dean pure pork. Can you imagine that, right? So I go over to have Jimmy Dean pure pork sausage. Well, Joe doesn't get up and get dressed and look good in the morning. He's wearing his robe and at Joe's Diner, so I nicknamed it the Open Robe Cafe. So I would go over every other day to the Open Robe Cafe and have my Jimmy Dean pure pork sausage. One time, Carol bought the healthy kind of sausage. We damn near killed her that day. But for Christmas that year, we got Joe a couple nightshirts. It was much more pleasant to eat sausage across from Joe. Okay? So, and Joe always does the Sudoku every morning, right? And it's in the same place with the bridge column, which I do. and he always lets me do the bridge column first. Well, there was a Dear Abby there one time, and I want to read you one. And I thought it was totally appropriate, but as only Dear Abby can do. The title is, Serious Girlfriend is Surprised to Learn Man is Still Married. Well, what is that doing, right? But they're always going for the big headlines. But the first story was, Dear Abby, I'm writing in hope that you'll print my letter and, with your response, raise awareness about male breast cancer. A male family member was recently diagnosed with breast cancer, and in addition to the issues everyone recently diagnosed with cancer goes through, there are additional issues causing stress in our house. Because male breast cancer is so rare, all the pamphlets and information are aimed at women. As a result, my relative feels very alone. Besides family, he doesn't want anyone, including members of his church, to know his diagnosis because he's afraid of what they will think. Encouragement such as telling him his friends can offer additional support and prayers has gone nowhere so far. Abby, can you share with your readers some information and resources for men with breast cancer? We would be very grateful. Man, I read that and I thought, man, this guy has it wrong. You got to reach out. As it said in the video, when we first learned this, Carol and I, who had the benefit of dealing with Kathy and my parents, if you reach out, you get a lot back. And there's a time to reach out, and this is certainly one of them. Shaved cats is a little different story. Okay, so my physical therapist is here. There's a lot of you knew me when I was younger, and I was a great athlete in my day, and so. Look at Mike's laughing at me. So, yeah. I remember I kicked the winning field goal. I was afraid to play football, but now I can tell you that. So, when I was beat to hell during this process. Just no two ways about it. I mean, there was days when I couldn't get out of bed. I'm married to Carol, who's very active, and she signs me up for a class at Family Fitness for people with bad arthritis and recovering from horrible stuff. So I go, and as I'm kind of waltzing in there and I see the basketball court where I used to, do the Kobe Bryant and all that stuff, I can't, I'll use your imaginations. And I get into this room, and they have these chairs around because we're going to exercise while sitting in chairs. And I look around the room, and everybody is 90. Everybody but me is 90. And damn if one of the guys there wasn't a friend of my dad's. And he sees me, and he says, Jim Bowman. I go, yeah. And he goes, I heard you were dead. These are all true stories. And I said, Joel, well, I got better, obviously. So I'm doing this exercise program in this chair. You're literally picking up a ball and putting it between your legs and then putting it down on the other side. I could only do half of this stuff all these other people were doing. I was winded. I was pissed. It was hard. But the hardest part by far was the conversation in the room, because these ladies were all talking about their cats and shaving their cats. And I'm not kidding. They had a conversation about shaved cats. Now, us guys who, we'd take this to another discussion. But I'm in a room with a bunch of 90-year-old women, so I'm just sitting here. They're shaving their cats. Okay, that's fine. And the one lady, and I didn't want to ask, why do you shave your cats? Because I'm not sure where this is going. And this one lady says, yeah, I spend $300 a month shaving my cat. I go, God, get a dog, What the hell is going on in this world? But they don't like paying somebody to clean up their cat hair. So that's why you see Dear Abby and shaved cats. Look, Matt was up here very serious, and it's a very serious situation we all deal with, but I truly believe in humor. Speaking of that, the goat shows up a lot, and you already heard his story, how he showed up. This is my surgeon. This is Dr. Aguilar. He hits me up My stuff was quick, man. I was diagnosed. I had my mammogram and my whatever when they shoot the nail gun into your chest and pull the stuff out. I had that on June 28th, our wedding anniversary. The doctor says to me, she says, hey, in 2 days, your doctor's going to call you and tell you one of two things. Either you got breast cancer or I want to do a surgical biopsy. 3 days later, get the phone call, July 1st, Carol's birthday. Okay? July 1st. Actually, Carol gets the call. We know the doctor very well. He says, Carol, I'm calling. And Carol says, yeah, I know you well enough, Carol, I can tell you before I tell Jim, but he does, in fact, have breast cancer. I'm at the office with Andy and Tracy back there and Debbie, and he calls the office, which during this period of time meant that he woke me up because I spent a lot of time, so you spend a lot of time sleeping when you don't feel well. And he says, Jim, you're the first male patient I've told in my 30 years of practice that you have breast cancer. So that's July 1st. It's a Friday. 4th of July is the Monday. I go in to see Dr. Aguilar on Tuesday. They fast-tracked me. And the reason why they fast-tracked me is because my pathology on the biopsy they did was not good. Not as that it is spread or anything, but that I had the aggressive cancer gene. So that's not good news. So Michael here is cold, pretty cold fish, working with people all day long, as doctors do now, have their reading glasses on, looking at their computers, not looking you in the eye. You're crying, and Carol's there with me, and we're trying to process all this stuff. And I do the old question of, well, what would you recommend if I was your dad? And he said, well, I'd recommend a double mastectomy. And I said, well, yeah, okay, why? And he says, well, if you don't get one, I'd say there's about a 90% chance that in 3 years you'll be back here. And I said, okay, well, I'm not using them. Let's go ahead. As she said, let's get rid of these bastards. And so we do this. We get ready for the surgery. Now, it's a pretty solemn moment. He says, take your shirt off. I don't like when men look at me and say that. But he's kind of cute. I mean, yeah. So I took my shirt off, and he gets out this pen, and he kind of, on the back side, not with the ink side, and kind of says, well, I'm going to cut here and cut here. And, this is, I'll take all this material out. And, Jim, you got quite a bit for a man. And so, but I worked hard to get it. And so he says, and we're going to take a lot of material out here. We're going to go after this aggressively. I say, that's okay. And he says, there's one bad thing about this surgery. And I said, what's that? And he said, well, it's going to make your stomach look bigger. Oh. Okay. Yeah. So you all know me well enough that I just, without thinking, said, have you got anything that'll make my dick look bigger? So, these are all true stories. So Carol went from crying to red-faced total embarrassment. And he takes off his glasses, and he engages me, and became a very close friend from that moment on. He gave me his cell phone number. He said, anytime you want to talk about anything, you can call me. I don't think it was a love thing. He has a wife and 2 kids. I think I was the first person that actually cracked a joke in the middle of that situation. I don't know why, but it just happened that way. And you look at the picture, his office was cold. There was nothing on the walls or anything. So I happen to have a collection of a lot of baseball stuff. The guy was from L.A. He's a Dodger fan. There's all kinds of problems with this guy. I don't know why I let him operate on me. So I brought that piece of artwork to his office and said, hang this in your office so people got something nice to look at besides the top of your head while you look at your computer. And I went back, I went to see him a lot. There was a lot of follow-up, a lot of stuff. And the pictures started growing. Once one got there, all his patients started bringing him stuff. And his office is a much more pleasant place to go. Okay. So, you all heard the story about how I got to where I am, so we're going to go on to the next thing. Right here. Whoop. Oh, don't look at that one. Jesus. Okay. The hardest part is sharing with your kids and helping your kids get through it. You always are a parent, always. And when Doug and I and Matt got together for lunch, I said, Matt, I would rather that you spoke than your dad because you're, A, much better looking, and B, I think it's important for everyone to hear from a family member as a son what it's like to go through this. And so that's why Matt graciously accepted, and thank you, Matt, for that. So we went down to L.A., Carol and I. We had called the kids immediately. We didn't want them hearing from anybody else. Not the easiest phone conversations ever in the world. Girls are girls and boys are boys. Kristen cried and Dad, I love you, and so much positive. And Jim says, well, when this shit's over, we'll have some good stories. And that's a direct quote. I said, well, I hadn't thought about it. You're right, though. We're going to milk this for all we got. So we went down to see the kids. There we are. That's on the young one on the end is my wife, Carol, of 40 years. Yeah. There is no better person in this world than Carol. So, and there's a lot of people in this room that could attest to that. So, but my kids are a close second. They're great kids. We had a great time. But I needed to get somewhere where I could get to my inner self, who I really am. So here you go. Yeah, it's not pizza. Oh, look, it went dark. It was Muscle Beach in Venice. So you got to know who you are and have a sense of humor. Do you know what it's like to be a fat 60-year-old white man, to go to Muscle Beach in the middle of the day, grab a black guy with that looks like that and say, hey, could you take your shirt off and take a picture with me, please? But I've never been shy, and I did that. And the answer was no, by the way. And I said, well, I got a story, and I'd like to tell it to you. And he goes, okay. He was in between sets of lifting, cars or something. And so we talked, and I've got literally, he got his buddy, like his trainer, buddy, handler, whatever they call him, I don't know. And he had him take a bunch of pictures. I've literally got like 50 pictures with this guy, pointing in the sky, pointing at my boobs, everything you can imagine. But I picked this one because it says Muscle Beach out there. And for those of you that aren't sure, I'm the one on the left. So I know it's hard to tell, but I'm the one on the left. Okay, that's right before surgery. Now I got to have surgery. So this thing is going to react. I know it is. We've all had enough of that picture. Okay, no, we're going to go back. I don't know. I must have pressed it twice. Okay, I have surgery. Now we all know the code, the doctor code. They get out of surgery. And Kathy and I dealt with both our parents on this. They get out of surgery, and the doctor comes in and talks to the family. The patient's laying there stoned out of their mind. And the doctors usually will say, hey, it looks good. It looks like we got it all. Well, when they came out and talked to Carol, though, they said, we had to remove a bunch of other stuff. When we got in there, it didn't look good. But we have to wait for the results. The anesthesiologist, Gary Leopold, a good friend of a lot of us in this room, he showed up in my hospital room at about 11 o'clock that night. I hadn't seen the surgeon yet. I said, Gary, don't sugarcoat it. Tell me what you think. And he said, well, I've been through a lot of those, Jim, and you got to wait for the results. So I'd heard the code from 2 doctors. So I knew what was going down. There's a thing in breast cancer called an oncoscore. They take your tissue, they send it off to, I don't know, Cleveland or something, and they grade it. in a cancer grade, if you got 0 to 12, they're going to just, that's fine. More than 12, you might need a little radiation. More than 18, you can think about chemotherapy. And more than 24, don't buy any long play records. And you got to really go if you're going to go. So I, as the overachiever I am, I got a 32. So when I got that, I couldn't call my parents because they were gone. I'd call my sister. So I'm not going to cry. And Kathy, who will not quit, says, I know the doctor to talk to about this stuff. A guy named Ernie Bodai. He's Kaiser doc, famous around the country for Kaiser breast cancer. Kathy, of course, has his home number, probably knows the name of his dog. Kathy knows all. She hooks me up with Ernie, and he calls me. And he says, Jim, hey, your sister called. What can I do? And I said, well, here's what's happening. He says, well, send me your reports. I got my pathology report. I got my onco score. And he calls me back, and he says, it's all or nothing, Jim. Don't, get your affairs in order. So, or you're young. You can fight. So I say, okay, I need a third opinion here. So I call my other doctor, Chris Jacobs, and Chris says, look, the best breast cancer doctor in Northern California is Annie's doctor at UCSF. And her name is Michelle. I forget her last name, starts with an M. Michelle Malisco, world famous in cancer circles. So great circle, right? And she gets an appointment for me in San Francisco. It's out of we got to pay cash for it, but at that point, what's $1,000 to talk to Michelle for a half an hour? So we set the appointment. I send her all the stuff, just like I did to Ernie, and she calls me the night before, and she said, Jim, save your money. She says, don't bother coming down here. Take your wife out to dinner. You have two choices. Get your affairs in order, or fight as hard as you can, everything you can. You got to throw everything or forget about it. Don't half-ass it. So Carol and I talk, and I have two role models in my life that I can turn to with this situation. My dad, who, when diagnosed with prostate cancer and fighting it, didn't have the maximum treatment, and told me months before he died that the one mistake he'd made in his life was not having maximum treatment. My mom, who we lost to cancer, had, they told her, look, you got a year and a half. We can give you chemo. It's not easy, but it'll make you more comfortable and may extend your life. So she gets chemo, and she gets an infection and dies in weakness during chemo. So I've got to make a decision, mom or dad. So I went with mom, because dad was great, but full of shit, really. And now dad had told me, look, Kathy knows the story. Dad had told me, I regret not doing it when I had the opportunity. And he was also only 56. I was 59. And so I looked at Carol and I said, we're going to fight and we're going to do everything we can. Go to the oncologist. He says, okay, you have two choices as to chemotherapy. So you can do chemo light or chemo heavy. And I said, no, we're going to go heavy. And he goes, no, he tries to kind of half-ass talk me out of it. And we leave that office and I tell Carol, we're switching oncologists. If I'm going to fight, I want somebody who's going to fight with us. And so I call my good friend Darcy here, who knows every doctor in town because she's one of them. And I said, Darcy, who's the best oncologist in town? She gives me a name. She calls. I'm in. So I go to see that doctor. There's no diddly farting around. He says, Jim, you want to fight? Let's fight. He says it very softly. He talks like this. So, and he said, and so I've got a partner now. I've got two partners. And so I get heavy maximum chemo, 20 weeks of chemo, during this chemo, I want to tell you just one quick story. So there it is, the darkest days. This heavy chemo, this high-density double-dose chemo is not for your those of the faint of heart. It kicked me down pretty good. So I was feeling pretty lousy. And that was really the darkest day. But it also became the best day. And the reason why is right here. I call that picture Two Old Goats. That's my friend Craig Hollingsworth. Showed up at my door. We're talking. I'm looking like I was laying on that couch and hadn't slept, full of steroids, throwing up, blah, 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 blah. And Carol is leaving for the office. Carol leaves, comes back 2 minutes later. Hey, I forgot my phone. Leaves, come back 2 minutes later. Oh, God, I forgot something. Came back 3 times. So you know we're under a lot of stress. There's just no two ways about it. And she leaves, and Craig says, she doesn't look good. And I said, well, she looks good, but she's not doing well. And he said, okay, I'm gonna fix this as much as I can. And he leaves, and I'm going, what in the hell is he gonna do? And he comes back about 30 minutes later with his Vegemite mix thing from you Lucy fans. But and he makes me a milkshake, and he says, we're gonna get you feeling better. And not only that, I've called in reinforcements. And a couple of our friends show up, and one of them is Renee, who we call the general in our group, because stuff gets done when Renee is around. And it wasn't about me. She says, Jim, what's going on? And I said, well, I'm worried about Carol. She's not doing well, okay? And Renee says, well, we're going to fix that. And she hooked up all of our friends, everything with meal plans, everything. People bringing us meals. They weren't all that great, but man, it didn't matter. And she also said, yeah, Carol's an awesome cook. All of a sudden I'm eating like casserole every night. But that's okay. So, but I'll tell you what, it was a huge relief. And what it did is it said, Jim, you got to be selfish. And Carol, you got to be selfish, which is not her MO. And we started taking care of ourselves and counting our friends to back us up. It was a huge day. Craig, I can't thank you enough. Can't thank you enough. Okay, so now we were prepared for the fight. Okay? So I'm back. I'm fighting. I'm sick. I get sick on a Thursday, and I can't even, Carol, let me make you Jell-O. Now, Jell-O can't hurt me, right? Well, I couldn't even smell it, and I'm throwing up. I literally starting on a Thursday, stood in the shower and threw up from Thursday through Sunday. And we called the doctor, and the doctor said, oh, well, welcome to chemo. I'm going to heavy chemo, and Jim, you're sick, and blah, 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 blah. Come in and see us on Monday. Well, when you're throwing up like that and you're sick and you don't even want to go to bed, you just want to stand in the shower. I stood in the shower literally with the water on, throwing up. That was my weekend. How was yours? And it gets time for Monday morning, appointments at 9. At 6 o'clock, I said to Carol, I cannot take it anymore. I just can't. And so we go to the ER, call the doctor's office on the way. So they hustled us through the ER. We got past all those people with those runny noses. And they get me in there almost like in a triage kind of situation. And my BP is 80/40, and my heart rate is 220, and I'm ready to go. And they fix me up, put some, you throw it for 4 days, you're going to lose some liquid, right? So they fill me up, put a bunch of stuff in me, make me feel a little better. I'm still throwing up. And they do an emergency endoscopy to see what's going on in my throat. There's an infection in there, thrush they call it. And when you're weak and you have no white blood counts, okay, you can't fight that stuff. And so they open my throat up for me, which immediately helps. And I immediately stop feeling nauseous. And I immediately say, I'm hungry, because you know me, that's what I say. If I'm not throwing up, I'm hungry. So they get me figured out, and they put me in they got a new oncology wing over there at Mercy San Juan. I'm on the 6th floor. It's brand new. I'm the only patient on the floor. There's like 7 nurses and me, okay? And so the first thing they want to do is weigh you. Well, they got this new fancy bed in there that'll weigh you. So, that's great because I'm really not even strong enough to stand up, okay? And so they weigh me and everything. And I have lost since the previous Monday when I had my chemo. I had chemos on Monday. So now it's the next Tuesday because I had the emergency surgery on Monday night. I had lost 45 pounds. No. Nobody loses 45 pounds. I don't care if you accidentally cut your leg off. You're not losing 45 pounds. So, and this nurse, she was the head nurse, and we're right, and all this stuff. She was doing her, kilograms to pounds thing and all this stuff. I'm a little bit of a math guy. I'm checking her. We're right. I was 45 down. So in walks, they do the nurse change, and in walks the just nicest nurse for the midnight shift, and she goes, Jim, how are you doing? I'm the only patient. I get a lot of attention. And I said, well, I'm really kind of concerned about how they weighed me because I lost 45 pounds, which, by the way, I'd been trying to do for about 40 years. Didn't want to necessarily do it in 4 days. But so she says, well, let's weigh you. And she rolls the scale in and helps me get up, and I stand up, and I had amazingly gained 35 pounds of the 45 I'd lost. And she said, yeah, those day nurses, they don't know what the hell they're doing. So they hadn't calibrated the new bed. So, you got to calibrate it for I don't know what, but it wasn't calibrated. So they were only off 35 pounds. So what the hell? Oh, what are they doing there? Why is it going forward? Okay. So great. Now, I can't sleep. I'm sick. I'm thinking we're close, if not near the end here. At least I feel a little better. I close my eyes. I cannot go to sleep. I'm thinking about both Kathy and I had the experience, Kathy with my dad and me with my mom the night before they passed, that they had hallucinations. I walked in and my mom said, my dad was here last night. And I said, really? And she said, yeah. And I said, well, what did he look like? I wanted, and she described him, what he was wearing and everything. So she saw him and she died the next day. And then Kathy had told me the story of Dad telling her the same thing the night before he passed. So I'm kind of afraid to close my eyes in case Mom and Dad are going to stop by. But it's finally 3 a.m. I got to go. I got to get some sleep. So I hallucinate as clear as a bell. This is really timely for the reveal here. Come on. There we go. At the end of my bed is standing Albert Einstein and Jesse Martin, who's an actor on Law and Order and was in Rent. And I'm telling you, I'm not kidding you. I'm a sane person. Those two people were at the end of my bed as clear as Peggy and Leonard are sitting in those two seats right there. I'd open my eyes and they were gone. And I'd close my eyes and they were there. They didn't talk to me, okay? I have no idea why my brain picked these two people. But there they were. So I started talking to them. And I said, hey, my 60th birthday's coming up. And the three of us planned my 60th birthday party. Which was the roast you heard about. To which Carol says, you're not doing that. You're too sick. And I said, yes, we are. I said, you don't have to do anything, honey. The lovely people at Jesuit will help us organize it and get her done. And that's what happened. Okay? I'm going to come back to that one. That's food related. So there's my roast. My buddy Brad back there was in D.C. It was right after the election. So he brought me a Trump wig. Thought it was appropriate, which was fine because I had no hair and I was kind of cold at the time. Okay? And we had a ball, 2.5 hours of fun. So, and I think that kind of stuff is what kept me going. And also, I was a little concerned. I'd been out of it, and it was my, what's going on? I'm leaving stuff to all of you. And what did you do? You elected Trump and let the Cubs win the World Series. I mean, yeah. So I got to stick around here to see what else crazy stuff's going to happen on this planet. So there we go. Now, we talked about food, a big part of my life. There I am with the goat and a pizza. Now, why would Jim pick chocolate chip cookies? Okay, Carol finally convinces me. We go to the doctor. Jim has got to get a nutritionist. That is really a tough job for any nutritionist. And so she's got these, she couldn't weigh more than 80 pounds. She's got these plates with, here's a little portion of broccoli and it's plastic. Here's what a portion, you can have this much cheese if it's a Tuesday and all this stuff. And all I can think of is these chocolate chip cookies because her name, I'm not kidding you, was Mrs. Fields. She was doomed from day one that I had Mrs. Fields. Okay, I've been talking a long time here. Okay, so I'm going to get to the end, if I can. Okay, we fought hard. We had the last day of chemo. That's a banner day when you got this stuff going down. So we had a little lunch. We had a luncheon. Me and some close personal friends. I brought the goat right here. He was excited, so I let him drive. He did a pole dance like you saw earlier. He saved my chair while I was seeing the doctor. Okay, there's lots of goat pictures. Okay, no, we went and got Mexican food. This is 4 old goats here with the goat. There's the margaritas. There's Tom Grabitas force-feeding a goat a margarita. And there's the after effect, the goat upside down. Can you imagine being in a restaurant and 4 grown men are playing around with a toy goat? But there we were, and we were celebrating. So, there we go. Okay, El Palmar, right? Okay, so chemo's over. They give me 3 weeks. 3 weeks to get strong before I start radiation. What could go wrong? Okay, nothing could go wrong. Everything's gone perfect for me up to this point. So they start you, ladies, on tamoxifen, which is an estrogen inhibitor. You got to take one. They give me the one for premenopausal women because, I'm premenopausal. And go to the office, get home, take off my shoes, and my feet are black. I go, well, this isn't good. So I call the doctor. They take me off the drug immediately. I obviously had an allergic reaction. And soak my feet in Epsom salts. Everything turns out fine. Okay. So it's getting to the end of the 3 weeks. I'm going to start radiation pretty quick. All of a sudden, I'm not feeling good. It's like a Thursday. So it's back to the ER. There was another trip to the ER we won't even talk about. So it's back to the ER. I'm having a lot of pain. Thank God for Dilaudid at this point to get me straightened out. What's going on? Jim's sick. Yeah, okay. Well, that's kind of gallbladder. So they do this test on me, and sure enough, I got a infected gallbladder, but I got gallbladder function, so no emergency. So go home, take your painkiller, and when your surgeon can operate on you, which was the next Thursday, everything will be fine. Well, that Sunday night was Oscar night of the famous What Could Go Wrong. Well, what could go wrong if Faye Dunaway and Warren Beatty are up there, right? No, they gave the award to the wrong people, but other than that, okay. But I didn't get to see that, because I started really falling down, really dropping. So we get over there, and they once again get me going again with the drugs and everything, and say, well, your doctor's coming in Thursday for the surgery. And I say, no, we're having surgery ASAP. So they get the hospitalist in there, and they do the emergency surgery. And not only was my gallbladder not functioning, I had gangrene. And this is something you don't want to mess with when you don't have any defense going on. So we're glad we got rid of that. Okay? So here we go. We got 2 to go. Last day of radiation was a banner day. It was first day of baseball season. Well, can't think of a better day for last day of radiation. Radiation was bad, not horrible. They have a jigsaw puzzle there that I was working on the whole time. In fact, after my last treatment, I went and sat down in the waiting room and finished that damn puzzle. Okay? So we got her done. Okay? And then, other stuff started happening, and that's life. But this is the last thing I want to leave you with, just like Matt did. I got something that I wrote, and the date is March 18th of 2018. And it's entitled Epiphany, defined as a sudden, intuitive leap of understanding, especially through an ordinary but striking occurrence. Well, I had one today while I was taking a shower. When it occurred, I actually began to cry. No, not because I looked down, okay? But it suddenly came together for me. In the last month, I have started to feel like my old self. Thank God. All of you know some of my story, but really only Carol knows it all. What a crazy 2.5-year journey, from feeling sick to a diagnosis of male breast cancer, 7.5 general anesthetic procedures, 20 weeks of chemotherapy, 25 days of radiation, 4 trips to the ER, 2 MRSA infections, 2 times I didn't think I would make it out of the hospital, roid rage, and an amazing 60th birthday in the middle of things, and now I'm out the other side. Whenever I get a new healthcare person in my life, and there have been many, they ask for my history or review my chart, and I swear I can read their minds saying, "Why are you still here?" Well, I'm going to tell you why. It is because I mean all of us, never gave up. It is very difficult to write this letter of thanks without seeming self-serving because, well, it is my story. I truly believe that all the cards, phone calls, visits, texts, jokes, meals, friends taking me out when I had no business going out, my kids showing up just to be with me, prayers, contractors working at our house dealing with me, showing amazing patience, and most of all, Carol's unbelievable efforts. I can only say that I will pay all your efforts forward. None of us know what our futures hold, but rest assured that I am a phone call away. I have had several opportunities to share my story experiences with others going through this crap, and the first thing I tell them is to reach out to their family and friends. So to all of you, I give you my undying love and respect. You literally saved my life. Thank you. Thank you.
You and the goat can't leave yet.
Okay. Get my glasses.
Okay. I love this guy.
Yeah. I know.
All right, Amanda, do you want to come up here so we can present the award? And we're going to do one more? Oh. Here we go.
For me?
No.
Oh.
Carol, if you could come up real quick, and while she's coming, I had the pleasure of sitting with a couple of Carol's friends at dinner, and one of the things that I found out is that the reason why Nikki spent 2.5 hours at Jim's house was not because of his engaging personality, but because it took 1 hour and 59 minutes for him to make 2 putts. So Carol is absolutely the golfer in the group. And behind every great man is an even better woman, and Carol is absolutely that. We all know that. So on behalf of Albie Aware, the Albie Aware Breast Cancer Foundation, we just want to thank you and honor you for the support and the courage and the perseverance and the undying love that you showed Jim. He is truly, truly a blessed man, and we want to thank you.
I didn't expect to be up here. Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you. Well, now the new car. Mercedes, nothing too special. Thanks, Amanda.
You're welcome. Hi, I'm Amanda Nelson. I'm the Executive Director of Albie Aware. And I just have to say, I am so thrilled to look out and see this sea of people who all love and adore Jim. And now we're getting to know about Albie Aware. Thank you all very, very much for coming. This is an incredible event for us. We, I think, have grossed about $145,000, which is something that is just That's thanks to this man right here. And before we give Jim the award, I want to give one shout out to somebody who's very, very special and without whose work none of this would have happened, and that's Melinda Carson.
Yes.
Woo-hoo! She and Doug came to us with this idea, and I just keep thinking this is going to be a really hard event to top, so thank you very much. So Jim, I don't know what to say that hasn't been said. You've just done an amazing job for Albie Aware. You've brought so much attention to us. You brought so much money to us. You brought such incredible people to us. I thank you so, so much. And let me give you a hug.
Oh, thanks.
And I want to give you this special award, and I have to show it to you over here because it lights up.
Okay. It's all the great things I said about myself, by the way. Thank you.
So with that thrilling event, I thank all of you for coming so very, very much. I look forward to seeing you at our next event, and I wish you a good night. Thank you so, so much for coming.